Cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, ha, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into gains, I'm the boss, I'm making change. I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a f***ing name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain, I just wanna be greatness.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we got something a little different. We got Robin's gonna take over the reins of the interview here and interview Issa, and I'm gonna kind of hang back and do Azzo's little bit today, which I'll completely mess up, and we'll be thankful that Azzo does it.
Yeah, it's hard to replace Azzo.
Azzo's getting ready to come out looking good in this one. But I guess, you know, what I'm going to do is just let you just start right here if you want. We've already got about 7-8 people watching. So take it away, Robin.
Hello, Issa. Hello, Joe. Everybody. I want to say I first met Issa when he debated Matt Dillahunty. And was it DebateCon, Issa?
I know I debated David Wood at DebateCon. But I debated Matt Dillahunty right before that. It was on Zoom.
Okay, all right. Well, so and we started talking in the comment section, and so I've liked Issa ever since. He's a great guy, very great guy. I always joke around. He's my favorite Muslim.
I've seen Issa a couple of times over on Matters Now,
Yes. Yeah, he's on there a lot. I mean, you know, they were really glad to get him on there on the panel too, you know, gives some different perspectives. That's what Ozian likes.
Sure.
Issa, you want to tell us about yourself? Anything that you want us to know? I mean, I don't know a whole lot of personal stuff about you, so that's why I didn't know what you. I'll let you tell what you want to tell.
Start with your social.
I'm Great Dream Hero on Discord, so you can always talk to me there. I'm at Super Silver Hero on Instagram. Yeah, it's my name. LinkedIn, Facebook, so you can connect with me there if you want to chat. And I'm issakabir@gmail.com if you want to email me. So that's all my deets.
What do you do for a living?
I work as a chaplain. I'm actually at my work right now. I'm on call, so I'm here in case I'm needed. And yeah, this is my office.
But you're a chaplain of like a multi-faith, right?
I'm an interfaith chaplain, but I'm basically a therapist, so I basically help people through death and dying. So it can be religious or non-religious. So I work with folks of all different backgrounds.
Oh, that's all. That's important work right there.
I'm actually doing a program right now in social work, and I'm planning to do an MSWJD. So I'm interested in creating social policy. That's kind of my interest, is advocating for resources for folks who are in need. So, yeah.
That is definitely good work. Definitely. Okay. I've got some questions. I may have to read them. What I wanted to talk about today was some of the how the Muslim community is being affected by the war in Gaza, the Muslim community here in the United States. I know that I have just on social media, I've seen an uptick in Islamophobic posts, and anti-Semitic Jewish posts too. I mean, it's like there's hate going at both sides from, Americans even. So I was wondering how it was affecting your communities.
So I'm a very complex person. It's interesting, we didn't really talk about my background, but I'm actually multiracial and multi-ethnic. So half of my family is Muslim and the other half is Jewish. So I'm in between both of these spaces. My mom's family is Jewish and my dad's family is Muslim. They're Sufi mystics. So yeah. So it's an interesting, this particular situation is very complex because the difficulties on both sides that I have to deal with. Yeah, there's definitely, I would say there's a lot of prejudice and colorism and all that kind of stuff. It's difficult. I guess specifically for my there's a lot of hate crimes that have been otherwise. And I think what we get is like the worst interpretation of Islam and the worst interpretation of Judaism. And I think that's the problem that we get.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. Issa, I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. Did you hear what I said before, or should I repeat
No, not really.
Oh, okay. What I said is we have the worst interpretation of Islam and the worst interpretation of Judaism, and that's what's creating a lot of this conflict. We're having people saying, well, the Muslims want to take over all of the Middle East, and it's the same thing what they're saying about Jewish people, and I think both of those positions are inaccurate. And there's just a lot of fear-mongering that I think is problematic.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, either the Muslims or the Jewish community here in America have very little to do with what is going on over there anyway. In fact, the actual people don't have a whole lot to do with what's going on over there that live over there, but definitely the ones that live here, you know what I mean? And just by the fact that your kin, your heritage is one or the other, that would be like, my heritage is Scottish. That would be like if Scotland started doing something, then I would be getting discriminated against for it. But
exactly.
So do you ever experience much discrimination, like towards in that way?
I actually lived in the South for a bit I've lived in the South quite a few times. So I've been in Arkansas and South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. I've been in Kentucky. I've been all around. And
oh yes, you did.
So I lived in Arkansas as a construction worker, and I was an electrician. And the people were like, "Are you going to blow this place up? Are you a terrorist?"
Oh my gosh!
I was like, I could be Hispanic. I mean, I could be all kinds of things. You don't know. Maybe I'm partially like black too. You don't know. Like I'm mixed. I mean, being a multiracial person, that's always been a difficult situation because you face mono-racism all the time. Where people are like, you have to be this thing. You can't be this other thing. Like President Obama, they're like, oh, he's black. Well, he's mixed. He's half white and half black. But they're always like, he's black. I'm like, well, he's both.
That doesn't, no, it doesn't matter. There's no, you're black or you're not black. That's in the country. That's the way.
Which is so weird.
But that's one weird thing about down south. You kind of know everybody. You pretty much know what you're facing with everybody almost. You can almost always count on it. So just don't ever. But that sounds like something that a bunch of my buddies would probably say. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's interesting because like I've had a background of seeing many different spiritual faiths, and it's interesting because I know from you that you were involved with Wicca, and I'm pretty well versed with that too because I've been to a lot of New Age spaces, the holistic fairs and New Age spaces where they have crystals and flutes and psychic stuff, and a lot of the Wicca folks are there too. They come to those places.
I never was Wicca, but
I
studied it some, but I mostly just did my own what I can call solitary practitioner.
You did your own practice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good clarification. Got it.
I looked into Wicca when I first started into the, like the occult stuff, but there it has a lot of rules um, of you can't do this and you can't do that, and it's too much law. It's a religion. It's recognized. I guess this. It's recognized by the United States Army and or the military. You can actually have it put on your, I guess, tombstone. Even if you get buried in Arlington or something, I think you can have it put on your tombstone. But your dog tags tell it, and so it is one of the recognized religions by the United States government. So, and it has a lot of dogma that goes with it too, just like most of them do. So,
I get that.
and you're not allowed to like cast love spells, which is why I went into magic anyway. So it was useless to me if I was going to get in trouble for casting love spells. As you can see, they were.
The 80s movie Teen Witch. That the whole movie, the premise is this woman is, she's like 16 and she finds out she's a witch, and then she basically casts love spells and casts popularity spells so she can be popular in high school.
Yeah, well, those you can cast those. You just weren't allowed to cast anything according to them that manipulated somebody else's free will. If it was like if it was gonna manipulate their free will, then you weren't allowed to use it because of the rule of three, the we can read. So, so I don't know. Do you live in a Muslim community, or do you live in just just a mesh sort of?
So I have different spaces that I go to. Yeah, I do have an Islamic space that I go to. Primarily it's a Sufi community. It's very open. Some people, it's not like one of those very rigid places. There is a space for people to do Islamic practice, like 5 times prayer, and fasting and things of that nature. And there's other spaces if people don't want to do that. There's a lot of American people who are a part of the community, and a lot of these people choose not to do 5 times prayer, and that's their choice, because the idea of how those prayers are and these things are, it's your own practice. It's not it's not a dogma telling you what practice you need to do. And I also have a Jewish community that I'm a part of too. So
is most of that dogmatic thing come from the governments over there, do you think, more than from the religion, or
like Middle Eastern countries?
Yeah,
I think
where
a
they
lot
have
of this. Mm-hmm.
where they have to do like the 5 times a day and all that stuff. Is that do you think that's more of a government?
I think the problem is a lot of these spaces are nation states. So imperialism and colonialism have formed and caused a lot of this kind of situation. Ancient Muslims, if we look at like the Ottoman Empire, for example, it was not perfect, had a lot of flaws, but it was a lot better, just like objectively, than a lot of these like Christian empires where they would like just kill anybody. Like they would go into Jewish communities and kill them. They would call women witches and kill them. Like a lot of people don't really understand how terrible the European Christian communities were at the time. And they also destroyed indigenous European religions as well, which is very problematic. I'm not saying the Islamic culture didn't get rid of indigenous Arab religious tradition. That did happen too. But there was a lot more flexibility of different communities, particularly folks who were part of the Abrahamic tradition. So Jews and Christians. It wasn't perfect. Again, I'm going to be transparent, but they did have a lot more rights than it would be to be like a Jew in like European Christendom, And Muslims, it was pretty bad. They called them Saracens and Mohammedans, and it was just not a very good experience. But if we look at the Ottoman Empire, for example, there wasn't a lot of these forcing of pressures on Muslim community. It was very what we would call like a libertarian government. A lot less oversight than what we would see now. There's a lot more oversight, and it's because of influences of looking at other nation states. So the government is a lot more involved than I would say ancient Islamic empire was.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to we've grown up in an era where Christianity is like way watered down from what its historical roots are. And like where you were talking about, that from the Crusades on, the Christians were very violent against the Muslims. And, you know, at that time, the Islamic states were the ones that came up with like algebra and stuff. There was a lot of scientific studying going on and everything. And the Christians, they pretty much killed anybody that wasn't a Christian. And then they could also kill other Christians. I mean, we had a lot of different Christian groups here in the United States before we got our Constitution ratified, killing each other. So their history is a very violent one, and we tend to forget that sometimes now that we're all jumping on the giving Islam hard way to go. We kind of forget that there may that there's a lot of blood there. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of things that were done to the Muslims and communities by Christians in Europe, and there's a whole lot of the issues of colonialism or a whole lot of the problems that are going on in the Middle East anyway. Imperialism, like you said. So,
and that's completely solid. That's completely correct. And that's why I feel like Muslim communities now they've lost a lot of that kind of enlightenment stuff. They actually attack, the ancient Muslims that did translations, like Greek translations. They're like, look, these people were bad Muslims. We like this very hyper literalistic stuff. Any ideas of Greek philosophy, everything needs to come from the Quran. The problem is that the Quran is like it's a spiritual poetic text that's very vague. If you read it in Arabic, it sounds a lot better than English because it actually has a rhyme scheme. So it uses a rhyme scheme, so you can tell that it's poetry. In English, the translators haven't really captured that, unfortunately. And it's very vague. It's very open to interpretation. So that's the problem. Like, you'll see people who will take a verse of the Quran and say, well, it means this. And I'm like, where does it mean that? It could mean that, and it could mean 5 other things,
Yeah, we have that same thing with the Bible. You can like read verse by verse. You can read the Bible and in English and try to go through there and interpret it one way. But really, if you go back and get the original, meaning to the text as close as you can and understand the Greek and the stuff, then you have to read it like in as a kind of like a story or something, like each chapter, and you'll get something different out of it. I mean, so like word for word, chapter by chapter, there, it's not always means what you think it means.
Exactly. That's completely solid and accurate, and that's the point. These texts. This is the thing. This is why I don't like when people try to mix science and religion. They don't work. It's oil and water. They're not the same thing. The Quran is not a scientific book like Nadir Ahmed wants us to believe. That's or Nadir. That's not correct. And Nadir got mad at me because I dared challenge that. I'm like, no, Nadir, it's not. It's not.
I know I've heard you say that a lot, that you thought that was silly. And I agree with you, Issa. I don't think the Bible is a scientific book either. And there wasn't no science that we know today or what we recognize as science today around in either time of the writing of either one of them books. So
exactly, and and they're not any. I'm surprised Nadir didn't do our Witsit. He didn't go and talk about neo-Tychonian model and kinematic equivalence and Michelson-Morley. I mean, it would be nice to have heard some of those terms, but we didn't get them. So
yeah, it in a way it's a newer. I mean, it's a later book than the Bible, so it makes sense that it would actually be more correct about some things than the Bible is, because there's how many years, 100 years, like, several hundred years of learning between this and this. Like the Genesis story, we don't know exactly how old it is, but it predates, it's BC. So, even if it was the stories do anyway, predate that, we know. So, but we have so it's just like they should have learned something by then, and what a little bit. So
You're right, and that's one thing a lot of people don't know. They're like, well, the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings. They basically are like, well, he had this advanced knowledge that no one else knew. The problem is they never studied the Greek science of the time. We do have embryology that exists. We can look at Aristotle. I'm not saying it was perfect embryology, but I think it's pretty good for the time with the limited resources that they had.
yeah,
we can see that there was scientific advancements and
we had the globe model by then.
Yeah,
by like 160 AD or BC or something like that one.
Yeah, we have Aristophanes who's done his work, and yeah, I mean there's a lot of work and information that was garnered in the time, and I don't think like the Quran is using the understandings of the time. It's not trying to provide science, and I find it really complex when someone talks about when Nadir talks about the vast deference. I'm like, you're like pulling at straws. You're trying to make this thing. You're doing a post hoc rationalization. You're saying, here's this thing, and I want it to fit the narrative that I'm constructing. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So, to answer your question too about like particularly the Palestine-Israel conversation as well, because you were asking me about that. And within America, I think it's a very complex, nuanced situation. There's a lot of tragedy, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of pain, and both the Jews, Muslims, Christians, and Druze and non-religious folks need to have a safe place to live, and they need resources, and they have a right to life, all of them. So that's my position in a nutshell.
Yeah, I figured that. I knew that. It's hard though to take people when there's, when there's years and years and years of struggle with people, and you've been raised generation after generation to hate these people, and it's just really, it's hard to get that mindset away from people. And I mean, like I hear people arguing all the time about this land, who's has a right to the land, and I just think, I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know that we could. How could we ever go back and say this? Or and then what do you do then? So we just have to work from here. I feel like to try to work from here and do better is kind of what I wish we could do. But I understand that I'm not living in that situation either on either side over there. So it's real easy for me to say in Kentucky, I'm not even having to deal with, anything going on in the border or anything like that. So, and where I live is pretty much not too much struggle going on here as far as, with other people fighting. I hate that children over there are having to grow up like this. On either side, it's got to be a stressful life.
It is, and a lot of it actually comes from British colonialism and imperialism. Just like the United States, we faced a lot of the British imperialism and colonialism. That it was the British mandate of Palestine. After basically World War I was a horribly destructive thing that's caused a lot of the trauma that we've had today. A lot of people really just don't know about, because it doesn't have a bad guy like Hitler. Pretty much all these players were bad.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, it was the cause of World War II. Hitler was a result of World War I, actually. That pretty much of what came out of it.
I would say this Palestine-Israel situation, Pakistan, India, all of these kind of conflicts, most of it come out of World War I, because Britain, they basically divvied up all the land and they said, we're taking over, and Britain got control of a lot of these spaces. You know what I mean? And
yeah, Britain and France, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because like where Israel is right now was under French and British mandate.
That's correct.
I think, right? Wasn't it?
Correct.
Like each of them had part of the land. Yeah,
and it's extremely problematic. And it's tragic. It's a tragic situation, and reality, it's just life matters. And I think what's really sad is I hear people say, people who are supporting, Palestine, that they kind of miss the mark of trying to create unity, in some of these spaces that I've gone in, and they're like, well, free Palestine. I'm like, well, what about unity with the people who are there, like the Jewish community, having a two-state solution, one-state solution, looking to making peace? And what does that mean when you're saying free? Are you looking to bring peace? And sometimes I hear a lot of anger and vitriol, and I'm like, this is not going to be helpful for everyone.
No,
And,
no, it's not it's not a
right.
one side's wrong and one side's right
Correct.
issue. It's not. And
I think that the settlers shouldn't be in that area too. I think if we want a two-state solution, there needs to be some rules and regulations. And the most important thing is peace. So figuring out how to bring unity and peace, you have to make compromise. So people on both sides, there's going to be mistakes in figuring out how to fix all of these situations, and working on having unity, I think, is important.
yeah, and getting people to reject groups like Hamas, because Hamas doesn't want peace, from what I understand.
You're correct, and that's actually one of the big problems.
So as long as they're in charge of, then they don't want peace.
You're 100% right, and that's actually one of the big problems to peace. Is we have the Jewish party who can come to negotiate. Who's going to be the Palestinian representative? It's not going to be Hamas. Hamas can't be they've lost their right at the table. That they can't negotiate after what happened in 10/7. But there is no.
What about the PLO? Are they in charge of the West Bank?
They are. Mahmoud Abbas. Maybe Mahmoud Abbas could be an agent that would come. He would be the representative. Some people are very upset with him, but I'm sorry, he did a much better job than Hamas did.
They keep them, they keep them separated, like those two different communities. I always kind of, and I think they did that intentionally to not allow so much power on one side, and so
which I think is unfortunate. I'm far more pro Yitzhak Rabin's policies as leadership. I think Benjamin Netanyahu is extremely problematic, and I would say most of the Jewish community would agree, and the Muslim community. There needs to be new leadership for Israel, and there needs to be new leadership for Palestine that can come to the table and negotiate. Because we need peace, there needs to be a permanent ceasefire, and the way that is done is that you need to have a negotiation. You have to have a path moving forward. You can't just. I think that's a problem too when people say, "Well, just have ceasefire." I'm like, you're not going to just get ceasefire. You're going to have a negotiation. You have to have a plan to the ceasefire. And
there's no trust.
We've got to build trust. And that's what the United States should have been doing, as being a buffer and saying, look, we need to come in. We need to be a negotiator. We need to make peace in this space. We're a major power player here. So we need to focus our diplomatic efforts in creating peace here, because this has got to end,
Yeah, I'm building some really. I guess it's hard to build any kind of relationship with Gaza, the Gaza side, because the leaders are Hamas. Until they have a leader that everybody will recognize as a not a terrorist group, then it's hard to do that.
You're right.
I've been watching some of the back in the 70s and stuff that and Clinton was trying to bring and everything. I've been watching a lot of that lately to try to catch up on just my history, because I was young, younger, and wasn't paying much attention to politics back then. But so I watched some of this the other day, and I'd forgotten so much of it. Like when Netanyahu was president once, and then got beat by a more liberal man. I can't remember who it was, and then Netanyahu got back in there because of the increased violence that was going on. The attacks. So.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why you need
strong arm ever since, sort of yeah.
I agree 100%, and you're right about that. Like, there needs to be more progressive, more towards out of the right towards the left. With diplomacy, we need folks like Yitzhak Rabin. Even Yasser Arafat is like way better than what we're seeing. Like the PLO, they look like saints compared to what about Hamas. Like I've heard people like in these debate chats and platforms saying Hamas is good and they're a good representation of Palestine. I'm like, if that is true, I have several arguments of why it wouldn't be. Let's grant. I'm going to grant that they say Hamas is good. I'm going to say, okay, well then Hamas. If you think Hamas is fighting for your rights, well then they're utterly incompetent. What have they actually done to support Palestine? Do they have resources? Is there infrastructure in Gaza? There is not. So Hamas has failed at that. Where are the resources? Well, it looks like the leaders are very wealthy, living in Qatar and Oman and living in these places. So I'm like, that doesn't look accurate. You're saying they're freedom fighters. You're saying, well, Israel was this great force of oppression. Okay. Well, what has Hamas done? They've kidnapped people. Okay. I mean, they look like brigands and thugs. So I'm like, all right, so you're saying they did brigand and thug tactics. What have they done for support? How have they actually supported Gaza? Have they done any leadership? Have they done any diplomacy? It really looks like they didn't. I was actually there. I was in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv last year in May, and I got there right when they were still firing missiles. So this is before 10/7. They had a ceasefire. Yeah. So I got there right when there was missiles being shot, and I was safe.
Into Gaza or from Gaza?
I wasn't in Gaza. I was in Israel. Proper.
Oh, you were in Israel.
I was in Tel Aviv.
So were they firing into Israel, though?
Yes. Yes, they were firing into Israel.
So the Iron Dome, you were under the Iron Dome, like with
the Iron Dome is kind of like it's like an anti-missile.
Yeah, I know. It's not really a hood thing, but it's like it's an anti-missile weapon, like
exactly.
weapons.
Yeah, it shoots. Yeah, I went to see it. It shoots missiles to.
But it's very effective, though, right? I mean, like on 10/7, I know that some of the rocket missiles got in, but that was pretty much because they fired so many of them all at once that like just repeatedly in it. So it takes it can only kind of keep up with so many, I guess. You're eventually going to lose some.
And my question is, what is your goal with 10/7? I'm like, do you think that you're going to get Palestine? You're not going to get that. No one is, even with this horrendous situation that's going on now, you're not going to get no one is going to listen to what you have to say. And, and I find it really kind of terrible when I see people sending all these pictures of innocent children being murdered. I'm like, this is not appropriate to the families. This is not appropriate. Like if it was my child, I would not want my child to be seen like that. You know what I mean? I think it's a really kind of terrible thing to do, to take pictures of photos of children and posting them on the internet. I find that to be really grotesque, and it's not a good memory to the family, and it's not a good memory to the child. And the thing is, we know this is a terrible situation, so we need to work on focusing on how to create unity, to create peace, to create dialogue, to create a safe space. That needs to be the focus. If we're focusing on anger and resentment on any side, we're not going to get to that point.
That's right. Hamas is not. I mean, anybody can tell Hamas is not. I mean, like you said, the leaders they live in palaces in Qatar. They're not. I mean, but they built tunnels and stuff under schools, hospitals, and like October 7th. There's nothing that they brought on the wrath of Israel onto the people, and then left. I mean, where they at? They're having to like hunt them down through tunnels and stuff. They're not out in the streets fighting. And it's terrible. I mean, and they have starved them for years. If you look, we've been, the world has been giving humanitarian aid to Palestine and Gaza and stuff for years, and they don't even get it. They're still hungry.
I can answer that question. I can answer that question that they posted. But if they don't post it, how can they? use the war for politics. The point is, the thing is, you can do it with dignity and nobility. You can go and say, look, there's a terrible situation that's going on. And instead of like doing blame politics, saying, look, there's suffering right now and we need support for our community and our people. I think that's the big problem is people are just like, I'm blaming. And I'm like, that's not going to get us anywhere. And I'm like, I was very unhappy with American politics, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Dresden, all of these things. I think we didn't need to do them. You know, we don't need to bomb and kill innocent people. What we need to focus on is how do we live in unity and peace. And the problem is, and a lot of people are blaming Israel. I said it's the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu are responsible. And then people are like, what's the IDF? I'm like, well, the American military follow what, you know, the bureaucrats say. It's the same thing that happens in Israel. So you can't really hold the IDF to that. You have to hold Benjamin Netanyahu. You have to hold the Likud party. This is the problem. And I would hold American parties for the Iraq war. I would have held President Bush and
well, we most of us do now too. So you know, I mean, most of us over here in America, we hold him. You know, we
need to hold them accountable. We
don't agree with what happened in Iraq and stuff either.
Exactly. And I'm very upset because they're like, they're like, Bush is so nice and look how terrible Trump is. I'm like, Bush killed millions of people. Like he doesn't just get off the hook because he's a nice painter now. And I'm like, this is insane.
Cheney had a lot to do with all that.
Sure.
But hindsight is 2020, or a little better than it may not be 2020 still, actually. But hindsight is we do have a better view from here than we did there, and you know, plus that was fresh off of 9/11, and so there was a lot of emotion, I think, in America to do something. Even if it wasn't the right thing, we didn't know for sure if it was the right thing, but we were dying to do something. We were dying to fight somebody. We were dying to go whoop somebody after 9/11. And I think that's a whole lot of what Israel is, you know, and I'm not even sure that I think that the Israeli people go, you know, Netanyahu is real far right. He used to not be, but he is now. And so he's a war hawk sort of type of person, but he I don't know, I'm glad I'm not a leader in any country. Actually, I'm glad I'm not having to make decisions like these. But
and I feel you, and there are hard decisions, and I think the most important part is caring about the people. It's not getting wrapped up in their culture, their ethnicity, all of these types of things. I think that's the important thing. How do we create, because that's what I want to do. I'm an advocate for social welfare. So we need to hold accountability for all the people who are doing the wrong things. And we need to then go into the routes of how do we create positive spaces. And that's the thing. That's the problem. There's a lot of lack of accountability that I've been seeing. And that's what I said. You saw me as a debater when I was, you know, having conversations with a lot of these folks. That's what I say for. I'm like, I believe in being accountable. I will be accountable.
Yeah.
If the people in my community do things that aren't right, then I need to say that they're doing the wrong thing. You know, I can't try to hide it and then pretend it's not happening. I think that's dishonest, disingenuous, and it's not correct.
It doesn't help. It just our others do it, just splitting into others, and you being in both camps over there. That's, I mean, that would be extremely hard.
It is. It's very, very hard, and it's very, very painful. And I have friends on both camps on my social media, and I hear people saying, look at these children. And I'm like, it's very painful. I don't want to say this. I'm like, what can we do to support the children? It's not having hate, that's for sure. And I also think it's, you know, it's important about honoring the memories. Like, I think what would be better if someone wanted to show the pictures of them being alive and saying they're not with us anymore. You know, I lost my loved one. You don't show them missing limbs. Don't you know, dishonor the dead. That's the way I view it.
Who's doing that? Is that Hamas or like?
I think that's who's releasing the pictures.
I mean, I don't think the Israelis surely are posting pictures of dead children. I would think that would.
I don't think
that's
so.
Harming them.
And I don't think it's Palestinians either. I think it's a very exploitative system. It is possible that that was Hamas's end game. Hamas's game was to say, we're going to attack Israel. We're going to trigger them. They are going to have this full-blown attack. Then we're going to be the victims here. And then we're going to cause children dying. And I'm like, if that is their strategy, it's one of the most evil, disgusting strategies. You know,
I kind of felt like from the beginning that that's sort of, I kind of felt like that's why 10-7 was so over the top, was because they were trying to, I mean, they were pushing for a reaction. I'm not sure what that, I don't think they think about maybe what the end game is going to be. But they just wanted to hurt, you know, they wanted to cause hurt in the community. I felt like that.
And it's horrific, and it's tragic, and it's sad, and it's like, and what it does is it fuels anti-Semitism, it fuels Islamophobia, and it's just, and people who are dying are innocent people who have nothing to do with any of it. These are the people who are suffering, and it's people being caught between two very, I would say, right-wing factions. They're both very, very right-wing factions, and they're not really considering everyone. They're just really considering themselves, and that's not good leadership.
No, it's too bad we can't just have people get on a battlefield now if they want to fight each other, you know what I mean? And then get on the battlefield somewhere and leave the women and children and elderly and stuff alone. You know what I mean? It's just fighting in the middle of
World War II created total war. That's what we're seeing. World War II created this situation where there's no one is off limits. We can just kill any person. And I just wish we didn't have a war. I'm very anti-war. I'm anti-imperialism. I'm anti-colonialism. And I think we need to promote like living in a modern century and having peace and learning how to live together in unity. And it's very funny because I've been in certain Christian spaces and I was kind of shocked by what they said. They were like, it was like, oh, I'm into interfaith and I'm into dialogue. And they were like, they kind of looked at me and gave me this like horrible face, and they gave me a pamphlet. And the pamphlet basically told me how horrible interfaith is, and we all need to believe in Jesus as our Lord and Savior. And I was like, oh,
they're definitely not anti-war.
And that was the point. And they were like, we need the war. Like, they're have you seen the Left Behind series? Are you familiar with the Left Behind series?
Mm-hmm.
The Kirk Cameron ones. That was the point, that the guy, the Antichrist, wanted unity and peace in the world, and that made him evil. He was evil because he wanted peace.
Yeah, how horrible. Peace. That's an awful thought for them. I'm not sure that American Christianity, especially, is such a perverted version of anything that it. I mean, even the European Christians don't recognize what's going on here. You know, Jesus, obviously, AR-15. Probably would have carried one of them. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it makes no sense. The twisting that they have done to fit their Jesus into their geopolitical story. That, you know, I mean, Jesus. Whether you like it or not, Jesus was probably, according to the Bible, what we see of him, he was sort of a liberal type. You know what I mean? I mean, he was, but he, for that time anyway, he might not be liberal now, but he was more, you know, love your neighbor and give away all your stuff and, you know, come follow me and give all your stuff to the poor.
I agree. I would say he was actually quite progressive and liberal, and at the time, and even now, like if we compare him to certain factions here in the United States, he's far more progressive than most of these folks. These folks who, can you imagine if, you know, someone said, you know, I need to, you know, I have a fetus that died within me, you know, as a woman, and I need to get, you know, I have to release this fetus. And you have people saying, no, you need to keep it inside you. It's a life.
Or lay and bleed out. That's what, that's what the text
even though the fetus is dead. Even though the fetus is dead. And I know this is a very extreme situation, but they'd say, you know, let's, you know, you can't do this. Jesus would have been like, yeah, no. Like even I take the precedent of the adulterous situation where they said, look at this person, she committed adultery. Well, who of you is a good person? Which person of you here has not done things that you're not supposed to be doing? So if that's the case, then you need to leave her alone and work on yourself. That's the argument that was made. And I think that would be the same argument in most of these cases, and we see people who really, they say they believe in Jesus, but I'm like, I don't really know.
We have, I think we have two different systems, two different Christianities in America. We have those who follow Jesus, and then we have the Old Testament Christians who they say Jesus is God's son, but they worship the Old Testament God. You know what I mean? They don't. So, I mean, like after I've heard some of the pastors, that said that it left their church. I've read like a whole bunch of books written by pastors on the Christian nationalism stuff. And they said that their own people would come to them and say, where did you hear this liberal stuff? Where is this? Where are you getting this liberal teachings out of the Bible at? And he said he would, he'd read like from the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, literally the words that are supposed to be words Jesus said. And these people didn't recognize it as anything that they thought should be taught in church. And so it's, and they're, the idea of Jesus and the idea of Yahweh are two different, very separate beings, sort of. I mean, I can hardly see how they're related. I must say, if they are.
I think it's a very interesting argument that you're making too, because also we have to understand that we're using a kind of an outsider vision of these Hebrew scriptures instead of like, what did these Jewish people feel, these Israelites, Hebrews feel about their own scripture and text. And I would say that it was not, like, for example, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If we look into the deeper text, what it says, it was like blood money. So because one person's eye can't be worth another person's eye. Let's say I have one eye and I take someone else's eye. If someone takes my eye out, I'm blind. So my eye is more valuable than that person's eye that I took out. So it wouldn't be a fair exchange. So they have legalistic things of how to deal with these situations. And it's the same thing with the Quran. What we're doing is we have these hyper right-wing, we have a rise of hyper right-wing narratives. Islam doesn't have to be this fascist, conservative, horrible thing that some people think Islam is. And same thing with Judaism, same thing with Christianity. The problem is the leadership who gets in power. People who get into power are people who have not very good personalities. Let me put it that way. They have personalities that are eager on getting power. So religion is one of the greatest tools to get power in the world. So you can say, I am the religious leader. I'm going to wear this outfit. I'm going to wear this uniform. And when I wear the uniform, that makes me a special person. I learn incantations. I learn how to speak in these different languages. And I say these prayers and incantations. And then that makes me better than you. And we're all human beings. And that hierarchy is...
Like you said, religion gets a useful tool to get power. I mean, we're seeing that right now, here in America. I mean, it's that, that's why we keep seeing the leaders though on there. A lot of them they'll get in trouble for, they've been molesting children or something like, what I mean, or they've been trying to buy some hookers or whatever, because they're not actually deeply religious, but they're using it to get what they want and to get control of the government. And it's so, not that they're good people. I mean, I guess to want to be the leader like that, you have to have some sort of ego trip probably going on anyway. Most people don't want the responsibility would crush me. And obviously the responsibility does not bother some people at all. It's just the power that they're after.
That's funny.
I've lost his name because I didn't write it on my paper. Biden nominated a Muslim for a federal judgeship this week. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but I think that's a good thing. I think we should have. I'm a promoter of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we should bring diversity and inclusion of different voices. I think the most important thing is if we value everybody's identity and where they stand, I don't see any problem with whatever people's practices and spirituality and religion are, you know.
His name is Adil Manji. He has gotten really good, endorsements from many other judges, and the Senate, some of the senators are blocking his nomination, and because of course, because of his religious leanings. And but I think he would be our first Muslim federal judge, from what I understand. I think
that's a good thing.
But he may have a lot of trouble getting in, even though other judges are coming forth and endorsing him. He has a really good, and I'm going to say that he is not he's not probably conservative, or Biden probably wouldn't be naming him. So I'm going to say that he is more of a liberal judge. But pretty much the only reason why they're blocking him is because he's a Muslim. Some of the senators, that because they have to do the confirmation, which, I mean, in the Senate, they can be confirmed. We can confirm them, I think, with just one extra vote, right? I mean, the vice president is the tie-breaking vote. But if they lose one, I don't even know if they lose one Democrat or something, I don't think they can get them through, or because they don't have to be confirmed unanimously, right?
Yeah.
We didn't confirm, like none of the ones that are on the Supreme Court, which, I would take this guy over anybody on the Supreme Court just about. So.
Well, I think the Supreme Court is extremely problematic because they're trying to regulate women's bodies, which I think is a really terrible situation. And many religions don't care about this. You know that, right? Like Judaism and Islam do not have and I would say even Christianity doesn't. I've read the entire New Testament. There's nothing about abortion there. It's not there. It's not a topic. It's a topic that's been constructed. Even marriage is like this pro-life, pro-marriage, pro-family. The text is anti-family.
Oh, did you know that marriage did not even, we didn't even have marriage until, Christianity. It's just like crazy. I mean, we know from historical and archaeological and everything else that, there were so many societies and civilizations that existed before the creation of the universe. And but everything began there. It's just like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that I wish we could have secular humanists and atheists on our court too. I think we're a diverse country, and we should represent all different voices. We should have Muslim voices, Christian voices, Jewish voices, atheist voices, Buddhist, Hindu. We have all of these different spaces, so why are they not all being represented within our community? I think that's a problem.
Well, in the United States, the only group that is more trusted, that trusted less than atheists, is rapists. So there you go. That's why we're not, I mean, as I don't suffer a lot of, but I would never be able, just what if somebody ran as an open atheist, I'm not sure where they could even ever get elected. Maybe somewhere in blue California or Washington or something like that. But in Kentucky, no. In the South,
which I think is tragic. I think we should have affirmative action for that. We should have allocation of spots where people who are not the majority have an ability to have a space to be in. And I think that's a problem. That's why affirmative action is kind of good. People think it's a bad thing, but what it does is it forces spaces to become more equitable. Because if we do not have affirmative action, you will not have Black students who are coming. You will not have any. You'll get more legacies. that, like an Ivy League institutions, you're not going to have that representation if you don't have that quota system in place. It forces institutions to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. And people say, well, then unfortunately what happens is there's this narrative of the myth of scarcity where people say, well, there's not enough rules. I'm like, yeah, sir, you can find another college, you can find another space. That's okay. There is so many spaces. We're in the United States. You might not get the space that you ideally wanted, but you can get to another kind of space.
Yeah, there's more than one good school.
There is. And it's like, okay, maybe I didn't have the right grades and it didn't work out the right way. I actually think standardized testing is bad. I think we should focus on writing essays and allowing people to represent who they really are. I don't think that the SAT or the GRE or any of these exams really assess who you are as a person for an institution. So I think we should kind of phase out of these systems. I think that they're very problematic systems that privilege certain people and disenfranchise others. But I think ultimately speaking, we need to focus on, the thing is there should be representation of all kinds of groups in different spaces. And one thing people complain about Hollywood movies, they're like, these Hollywood movies are so bad. You have more women on screen, you have more people of color. Oh my God, it's such a terrible, horrible thing. And I'm like, some of these scripts are horrible, but seeing people of color and women on the screen, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I know. I saw a meme the other day that said something from the past, seeing a white couple in a commercial or something like that. It was like, it's just the dumbest thing to be whining over. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't even watch commercials, so I don't know why it bothers people what color the commercial people are, but it's ridiculous. And maybe one day we will get to a spot where we wouldn't need affirmative action. But Clarence Thomas used it to get where he's at, and then he jerked the ladder at behind him. And so I think I would love to see him impeach him and Alito, especially Amy Coney Barrett.
What about Kavanaugh? Both Kavanaugh and Thomas have allegations. They have essay allegations towards them.
Yes, they have all kinds of stuff they've been doing. They have. They're both, they've been messing with their ethics on like opinions on cases and being bribed for, and their taxes and everything. I think that should both be impeached. Amy Coney Barrett, I don't agree with, a whole lot of what went on with her, but so far she's kind of walked the line on minding her, her taxes. And I think she's more honest actually than either one of them are, even though I don't, she's kind of a culty like thing. Really, as far as her ethics, I don't think she's as damaged as them two are.
It's good to have a woman. We should have more women on the Supreme Court. So even if you have a conservative woman, at least there's a woman that's there. You know what I mean? You have more women, more representation. Of course, you don't have to agree. I think that's fine. I think we should have conservative people in the Supreme Court justice, and we need progressive people. We need a balance. There should be a force of diversity, because the problem is I wouldn't want a whole panel of progressives. I wouldn't want a whole panel of conservatives, because then you don't have balanced rulings. We should have like 4 people who are conservative, 4 people who are progressive, and then that allows us to have more balanced rulings.
Yeah, they need more. I'm all for Biden. There's 13 federal districts now. There was 9 so I think they should expand it to cover the 13 districts. And I don't care if they put 100 people on the Supreme Court, because the more people that are on the Supreme Court, the less power each one of them has individually. And so I think that it would produce better rulings. You wouldn't have, you wouldn't be able to make that. It'd be a lot harder to get a whole bunch of people to vote one way than 5 or whatever. And even Roberts has tried backing it down, because he knows that he's over. This is his legacy. This is his court, and they're making him. This going to be like the most corrupt court. It's got the lowest ratings of any that we've ever had in the United States. So. And I'm just I just hope Biden decides to do something about it if he wins again. And you know, like I was talking about, like, oh, the war in Gaza and stuff is going to have a big effect on all us. You know, it has the potential of, because the left, on the far left, the young people and stuff are really becoming anti-Biden because of the war and TikTok and stuff. And you know, if some of them sit out vote, or the Muslim community sit out voting, you know, then we may end up with Trump again, which I don't even know. I think I want to go live in Canada if he wins again myself. I might have to anyway, as vocal as I am about him. So I might have to. He'll come hunting me. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I think we need more third-party representation. We need more libertarian. We need more Green Party. We need to focus on the country being able to have more viable options. The problem is we have this bilateral situation. Two parties. It's bicameral. It's not working. Having Democrats and Republicans is not working. It's not allowing for the voices of probably most Americans to be represented. People I hear that say, I'm going to vote for Biden because he's the lesser of two evils. That's not a good choice. You should vote for the person because you think they're a good person for office. That's terrible.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not a good choice. I mean, it's not ideal. But the thing about it is when you're going to end up with one of the two evils, you have to go for the lesser. You know what I mean?
No, I understand that point. The point that I'm saying is that's the problem in itself. The root is that you have two parties. If you had Green Party and you had Libertarian Party and you had other voices that actually could be viable candidates, I think that's what we need to push for, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, but like one of my senators is a libertarian, and I think he's horrible. Rand Paul, here in Kentucky, you know, he's not, I mean, he is just a crook. You know, I mean, he's just owned by big money. He's a racist. He fought like getting rid of making public hangings illegal. You know, and stuff like. I mean, he's just gross. Is what he is. I send him an email every week telling him to stop embarrassing my state. He doesn't listen at all about it.
One thing that is good about
someone, to embarrass my state.
But one thing that's good about someone like a Rand Paul or a Ron Paul is that they will stop imperialism and colonialism. They say they're isolationists, which I think America needs to go towards, is looking on how do we build jobs in the United States? How do we make hold companies accountable and say, look, you're outsourcing and getting these like cheap iPhones. You're making iPhones for like $1 and then you're selling them to $1,000 to the American people. That's a big problem. Why don't you make products here? And, you know,
he's not his dad, though. His dad was different. Rand's not his dad. I mean, Rand he was the only senator that voted against the PACT Act. You know, for the veterans. The only senator. There was only one, and I mean, you got that many, 99 or whatever senators to agree on something, and one said no, and he was it. You know, and why? And when I emailed him and asked him why, he said because they couldn't prove that they got that cancer from those. Yes, they did prove it. I mean, that's how they ended up getting. It was just like blow my mind. You know, I mean, so he's not his dad. His dad was more libertarian. He is nothing but just sort of he doesn't want to do anything for anybody. He's you know, I mean, we wouldn't have anything in this country if it was up to him. No kind of Social Security, nothing. There'd be no kind of nothing to help anybody.
And I do think that can be an issue with certain elements of libertarianism. I understand that point where it's.
I got mine. Too bad. That's what
having regulation, and I think that's the point. The idea of having small government isn't a bad thing. Small government is a good thing, but you need to have government. And where does that government go? And I think the government should be focusing on helping the people. That's me as a social worker into law. That's my interest. How do I support the community? How do I help people? And I think that's one of the saddest things. The people who are left behind are people who are of European ancestry in America, European Americans, who are disenfranchised. They're impoverished. And then what they do is they hear someone like the former President Trump say, I'm going to make America great. America's tremendous, America's wonderful, everyone's a lightweight. You hear these things, and you hear him talking, and then the people are like, "Wow, I love that guy." Like you hear it, and I'm just
and they had no history. They don't remember Hitler saying, "We're going to make Germany great again."
And he's not for you.
And Charles Lindbergh's America First group that that fought and refused to allow the Jewish people to come over here. They don't even know any of that. They don't know the history of that. Make America great. Well, I'll make Germany great again. That was Hitler's slogan. So
that's true.
You don't think that they're similar? And I don't know. I understand. I actually voted for Trump the first time. I'm embarrassed to say. I know.
I don't think you should be embarrassed. I think that's fine. That was a choice that you made. I think Hillary Clinton was not a very good candidate. She did not. She just thought she could just win based on her being a senator and having, the clout. She didn't run a campaign. So I'm like, if you're not running a campaign and you're not trying, then people aren't going to vote for you. And Trump sounded like he was a fresh new voice. He was saying new things. He's like, I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm not a politician. There were some charming things about him.
I knew he was bad, but I just didn't know how bad. I didn't know how bad he was. And Hillary, I watched an interview with Howard Stern after the election. Hillary did a 4-part interview with Howard Stern. If I had seen that interview before the election, I probably would have voted for Hillary. I did not. But at that time, I drove a lot. I didn't keep up with politics a lot. And I was, what I did keep up with was probably through mom and dad or something. And they are all Fox News people. I was badly misinformed on a lot of things. But
I understand that. It's a hard situation. And living in the South, having lived in the South, it's a very different kind of narrative than living in the North. I've lived in both places, and there's a different way that politics are viewed. It's viewed differently. Culturally, it's different. It's a different kind of space. And I see like a lot of Southerners have distrust for Northerners, and then Northerners find Southerners as kind of stupid hicks. Like that's the thing. You have this very kind of this huge impasse, which I think is probably we're divided in our own country.
We are like two separate worlds almost. We consume different media.
Yeah.
And so, not that I think that, neither side probably portrays everything perfectly right. But I do feel like that one side is intentionally lying about a lot of stuff, because I can watch it. I can go over there to my mom and dad's and watch it and see it and know the lie, recognize the lie. So,
what you're saying is not.
But I was not. I really, after I watched that interview with Howard Stern, if you didn't like Hillary or whatever, just watch it sometime. It's a 4-part interview. It's a long interview. It shows you a whole different Hillary than what I saw before the election. But my vote wouldn't have been the one that kept Trump from winning anyway. But I lost my the pandemic is when I was done with him, because I know enough about medical stuff to know that everything he was doing was wrong. So that's when I feel like he just flubbed that really bad.
I think you're right. I think it's a very complex situation, and we just have a lot of polarization. And I think the problem with the former President Trump is that it's not really he himself. He's just kind of like a reality TV star. He's playing himself. It's the people who are around him. That's the really big problem. The people around him are the ones who are kind of running the show. And there's these people who are very, very right wing. See, if there were a bunch of like liberal progressives around him, he wouldn't have a problem. Like
Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon's. Alex Jones people are influencing him, and the Pillow Guy, and You know,
My pillow. My pillow.
and,
I have these pillows. They're
Stone
really good.
and just gross people, just nuts. I mean, Rudy Giuliani, and I actually, and Rudy used to be. I mean, I used to really have a raw respect for Rudy after 9/11. You know, he really was um, pulled together during, you know, after that for the city of New York. You know, it just, I don't know. I'm just worried because it seems like no matter how gross Trump gets, they just they don't even pay attention to it. I just don't understand it. But we'll get off Trump. That wasn't what was.
Sure.
You want to talk about something about diversity? Maybe did you want
I
to
can
go
answer
there?
your questions too if you want. You have some questions in the chat if you wanted me to answer any of
Oh,
those.
okay. Did they have some questions?
Yeah, Carrie Ann Chrysler had a question. And I think
Oh,
B.S. Lewis did too. C.S. Lewis. B.S. Lewis.
let's go look at the chat.
I like Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, I marked a few questions that people asked along the way, and
Okay. Go ahead,
you-
Joe. You can ask.
well, I mean, if you want, you can go through them. It doesn't matter. There's not a whole bunch. There's just like 5. I think one of them's more of a statement, and one of them's a 2-part thing anyway. So there's not a whole lot right now. Yeah, I mean, if you want me to ask them, I will. I don't care.
You can go ahead.
So B.S. Lewis says, aren't the holy books on both sides a huge obstacle for building that trust? Talking about between Gaza and Israel.
Right. So the Tanakh and the Quran. I think it's the interpretation of the text. It's not the text in of itself. There isn't an objective reading of the text. You have different readings of the text. So there are some readings of the text that are really not very healthy, but I think, and they're not. So for me as a person, so you have different, like as a person who's been special ed in teaching, you have different lenses you can use. You can use a feminist lens, you can use a Marxist lens, you can use a progressivist lens. So it's really the lens. We're arbiters of whatever text we're reading, right? So when people do like charlatan, like do grifting, and they tell you, oh no, there's an objective reading, there's not. There's no objective reading of any text. We have our own reading of the text. So as a person who is more of what you would call a progressivist, a spiritualist, I read the text through that lens. I see the Quran and the Tanakh as spiritual texts. So I don't face these problems. The reason is if you're a literalist, if you're a hyper literalist and you think the text is literally true, then you're going to have some problems. You know what I mean? If you're going to say, yeah, it's okay to kill people, it's okay to hurt people, it's okay to have bad relationships with your wife, yeah, no, don't. That's not good. So the obstacle isn't really the book; it's the lens. That's how I would answer that question.
It's who you're letting interpret the book, I guess.
Exactly. It's the interpretation. It's not the book itself.
Yeah. Let's see, Carrie Ann. What is Issa's ideal outcome? What kinds of challenges does he want to see happen? I think that's supposed to say changes. What improves lives to prevent conflict?
My ideal outcome is unity. I actually like the verse from the Bible, from the Tanakh, from Isaiah. It says, "Beat your swords into plowshares and beat your spears into pruning hooks, and make war no more." That's my ideal. I like the Star Trek world. If y'all have seen Star Trek, I like how the Federation is, where people are. There's a certain kind of equality and equity. There's a movie actually called Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know if you've seen with Vin Diesel, but there's a place called New Mecca. There's a world there, and it has all different kinds of religions and cultures and people living there. And that's the ideal of what Mecca was supposed to be. But the problem is, it's people are now saying, I'm going to gatekeep and just have it for just Muslim people, and I find that to be sad. I think we should be an open, welcoming society, all spaces. So with Palestine and Israel, I hope, if we have a 2-state solution, that Palestine will have Israeli citizens, like people who are Jewish citizens of Palestine, and Israel will have Palestinian or Muslim citizens of Israel. That would be my ideal outcome, is if we have the 2-state solution, that would occur.
Yeah. Okay. Carrie Ann again, here we have class separation, poverty, lack of affordable housing, etc. These make life bad here and have much to do with our own political polarization. So I was wondering what issues on the day-to-day need to be fixed there. I guess that's more of a refinement. Yeah.
I think the same issues here are the same issues there in a lot of ways. We need to I know that I can only focus on things on a local level. I can't change everything and change the world, but I can change the circumstances around me. So my goal in life, and I'll answer their question too, is to change what's around me. Say, look, people need resources. We need to stop the myth of bad poor versus good poor. This is a lie that we're being told, the myth of scarcity. We have to destroy these narratives, these myths. They're saying, well, these bad poor, they're on welfare because they didn't deserve it. I'm going to stop it. No. A lot of these people might have mental health issues. There's a whole host of reasons why people are suffering. Let's not go to that narrative. I would then say it's the same situation there. Everybody, I believe in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with it, where everybody needs to have safety, security, self-actualization. Everybody deserves to have these rights. They deserve to have their needs met. So I think all these people in these areas do. People need food, they need water, they need shelter, they need safety. They need to feel that when they walk out, no one's going to hurt them. And that's actually a big problem we have in the United States, like with patriarchal structures. Women have that. As a man, like I've talked to women and I was like, they said, I'm catcalled, I'm harassed, I'm afraid when I go out, I have to carry mace with me because I don't know if I will be attacked by another man. I'm like, I feel really sad. I'm like, the men that I have around me are not like that. But there happens to be men that are like that I haven't seen, or I haven't seen that side. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So I think creating structures that allow people to feel safety and not feel like they're going to be abused or attacked is important.
Yeah. And what do we have?
Let me tell you, Yahooligan, I saw his message and thanks, but I probably will have to leave the milk truck here if I come to Canada.
Don't get to take that with you, huh?
No, I'll probably be in a much smaller vehicle.
That's funny. What can we do as consumers and citizens? I don't know if that's specific to something.
I can answer that question, even in general. I think people have this problem where people are like, let's just boycott, divest, and sanction. They like to take the BDS route. And I've talked to people that I really love that take that position. I don't think that's the right position. I think the right position is saying, hey, let's send money and support, give resources, even if we don't know if the money will get there. At least we can make that intentionality and use that dollar that we have to help those children who are suffering in both Palestine and Israel, making sure that they have resources. I think that's important, making sure they have food, water, all of these things. Focus on that. Focus on being positive. Focus on, using this word, quote unquote, the light. Focus on how to be a better human being and helping people instead of saying, how do I punish people? We focus much on negative reinforcement. How do I punish? How do I hurt? I'm like, that's not going to help people. Focus on how you can help people.
Yeah.
And that's how you should use your dollar. Give money. And that's one thing I've noticed in the secular humanists. My family are actually, my mom's family are secular humanist Jews. The most religious people in my mom's family are Reform Jews, which are really, really liberal, progressive Jews. But my family they're secular humanists and atheists, a lot of them. And I have a funny little story about that where my uncle, he married an Irish Catholic woman. So my aunt is an Irish Catholic woman because my mom's generation intermarried with other groups. So before that, they all married Jews, but then after that, they kind of intermarried with other ethnic groups. So like African American, like I have cousins who are African American, I have cousins who are Irish, so I come from a kind of multicultural background. And so the story was my aunt's sister, I guess she would be an aunt to my other aunt that I've never met, became a born-again Christian. So my cousins went over to my born-again Christian aunt's house, and they said, she was saying, you need to believe in Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Do you know who Jesus is? All of that. You know the standard. So they were like, we don't know who Jesus is. We don't know any of this because we don't come. We're like, what is this? We don't even know what we really believe. So they came to my uncle and aunt, and they said, how do we handle this question? Like, what do we believe? Dad and mom, what do we believe about this? And he said, we believe in love. That's what my uncle and aunt said. We believe in love. We believe in love and compassion for our fellow person. So, that's where I stand too. We should believe in love and compassion and understanding for our fellow folks and our fellow lives. So, what was the other thing? That point of just being open-minded and compassionate and being accepting.
Yeah, we all have to live here as people, even with different beliefs. So why not make the world better for people in general? I think sometimes, especially in the atheist community, we get hung up a lot on, well, this thing is harmful and this thing is harmful, and the world would be better without religion, and things like that get tossed around a lot. I think that don't get me wrong. If we were to have the conversation about Islam has its issues just like any other religion. But, I think that you've demonstrated that it's the person who chooses to come at these topics with a little bit of understanding and caring about other humans. And it's not sometimes the belief influences things badly, and that's with any religion. We talked a lot about fundamentalist beliefs and things, and fundamentalism leads to fanaticism, and this is known. So instead of trying to shoehorn a book to fit everything under the sun that we experience, we should do it the other way around. Let our let our lives influence that, and let the facts of the world around us influence those things. And I wish I encountered more believers that had your attitude about it, Issa. I do, and unfortunately, that's not normally the case. But I think that you. I think that you had a wonderful interview here today, and I think Robin did a good job coming up with some topics and stuff that would cover a lot of ground without getting too bogged down into any one thing. For me, I look at the stuff in Israel and Gaza, and I say, well, this is because of two religions occupying the same area, and it's easy to throw it down as just that. But there's also the political things, and there's sure, it's being driven by religion, but at the end of the day, it's the people who have nothing to do with either side of that are dying, and that's really what we need to work harder on preventing. And I think you're exactly right. The U.S. has not came to the table with a clear conscience in this one. They've kind of beat around the bush of we're gonna support Israel and appear not to at the same time, and it's really looked kind of messy from America's involvement. We've helped improve things by getting some food and stuff to people, but we've done the least we could do, I feel like. And I hope they get those things over there straightened out before they end up killing us all. So, but you want to, you got a little longer left, Issa? 20, 30 minutes or so?
About the judgeship.
Yeah.
because I meant to look up on this more, but they've been questioning and really some really just horrible, you know what I mean, questions, like, you know, that they have repeatedly like asked, you know, our judges and stuff some really stupid questions. But and like Mitch McConnell has on here that he did, you know, he says it's Biden's radical judge appointment. The opposition to radical judicial nominee is what, you know, Mitch McConnell's got on here. You know, and then John Kennedy, I reckon he come up with some really gross stuff. But it's for the federal appeals court, is what it is.
Yeah.
So I meant to look up more about it, but you know, it's not looking. It's really showing some of their bad sides. This right here.
How can you be willing to let those courts prosecute people when they won't include those same people in the courts?
They don't care about being fair. You know what I mean? I mean, it's radical. Why is he radical? I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's always radical something.
Has he been walking around with a? Did he make a commercial when he ran for office with an AR-15 with the whole family? Was the whole family holding AR-15s in the picture? That's what I want to know in their Christmas picture. That, you know, I mean, if that's not radical, then I don't know what he is. So you know, it's radical.
It's radical if you do it, but not.
I kind of think taking away rights from half of the country is radical myself. So I don't know. Bitch disagree on what radical is. But
our Supreme Court's a mess, by the way. That I didn't. I had to bite my lip there for a minute on that part. Our Supreme Court's garbage.
Oh, it's a disaster.
It's
and Sotomayor is talking about resigning, which, like, if she wants to, she needs to do it now. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is you know, because definitely don't need to wait and see if something happens. You know, that Biden doesn't win. But I don't know why. I guess I don't blame the liberal judges. I wouldn't want to be on that court either with all them people.
Well, I think until they're willing to have until they're willing to, first of all, talk about ethics and have the conversation about what they need to do here. Because,
like, you know, not Roberts, but Clarence Thomas is just, I mean, he has been taxed, you know what I mean, cheating on his taxes he should be in jail for what he's done. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're just blatant. And then him and Alito both were like, you can't touch us because we're our Supreme Court justices. We don't have to do anything you say. Nobody can tell us what to do. Even Amy Coney Barrett supported an ethics, you know, thing. They didn't. I mean, Alito came out. Alito's the one that I would just, I want to see him get just fired so bad.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's became clear through the stuff they've released that our Supreme Court is beholden to the highest, you know, the highest bid. And you can't. I mean, we have ethics for all other federal judges that work just fine. But for some reason, when you become a Supreme Court justice, the only thing that changes is you get more power and you don't have to have any ethics. I mean, it's crazy to even think that this is the way that things are supposed to work, because it's not.
But when you become president, you have total immunity.
Yeah.
I mean, I've laughed all week about the fact that actually Trump's lawyers filed a brief with the Supreme Court on the immunity thing, claiming that the president has the right for total immunity to hire. I mean, they filed this with the Supreme Court. It said that president can have SEAL Team 6 assassinate his political opponents. Okay, never mind the fact that Trump isn't over SEAL Team 6 right now. Joe Biden is. So if they decide that this is true, guess what? You know,
Joe Biden can take out Trump.
Trump assassinated legally. You know what I mean? Because the Supreme
Yeah.
Court has ruled. Of course, he wouldn't. That's unfortunately, Biden wouldn't do that. But
Well,
I mean, it's so stupid. Why would you even go in there and make that kind of argument when you're not even in charge of SEAL Team 6?
yeah, I mean, from his perspective, I would think if he's going to make that argument, he should be thankful that he believes that Joe Biden's the one prosecuting him instead of trying to kill his ass. You know,
Well, I mean, Joe Biden's not even prosecuting him.
Oh, I know. His delusions are crossing paths.
I mean, can you imagine if this was the other way around? How much overstepping out of bounds that side would be doing right now? It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Trump would be on TV every day saying, "We're gonna," you know what I mean? He would be involved in every bit of it. It's just, it's crazy.
What Ember said here, the fun thing is that the ethics were created specifically because of corruption on SCOTUS, but then specifically excluded SCOTUS. Yeah, that's actually true. I can't remember. What was that judge's name? From back in the I think it's 70s or 80s, I guess. 80s. I can't remember, but there was like an incredibly corrupt judge. And no, in the past. And a lot of these rules and stuff were made because of things that he did. The whole reason for putting a code of ethics on federal law or federal judges was because of things that happened in the Supreme Court. But then whenever they went and passed the law and applied it, they left Supreme Court justices out of it. So
Powell was nominated by Nixon.
Powell? I don't think it was Powell.
Yeah, Lewis Powell. He is actually the one. He is actually the one that wrote prior to him being put on the Supreme Court. He wrote the Powell document that's like the one that started the money, the dark money and stuff. He's the one that, like, for the Washington D.C. I can't even think of what I'm trying to think of now. But he wrote a memo about how they could gain control. He's the one that pushed getting control of the courts. Like, that's when they started getting all the right wing billionaires and stuff started going after the courts. That was his plan.
I just watched a documentary about this guy the other day and cannot remember his name. Yeah, I mean, there's a million reasons. Like, first of all, why would anyone speak out against the code of ethics?
It's hard to justify that. But Alito said no. Alito said nobody had to write that. That's what Alito is. I mean, Thomas is nothing but just you know what I mean? He's a bought and paid for person. But Alito thinks he is so much better than everybody, and he thinks he is superior intelligent. I just despise him. I mean, I cannot stand him. He would be the very first one to go. I would love to make him cry. Just kick him out of the court.
Yeah, this is the story. James Swatcher indicted 22 corrupt court personnel. That's why they came up with the code of ethics, because they found the corruption was so rampant in the Supreme Court that they needed to come up with a code of ethics. Well, the Supreme Court, of course, got to decide who it applied to and said it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alito made that argument. He said that they didn't have constitutional authority. So here's the deal: if like Senator Whitehouse is my favorite senator. I love him, and I've read all his books and everything. He's just awesome. He's like a dog with a bone on this Supreme Court thing, and he says, you know, he is pushing an ethics thing through through trying to get it through, you know. of making them. And he's went to the judicial conference and all that kind of stuff, everything. And then Leo comes out and says, you're not allowed to pass laws that affect us. Pretty much. It's like, okay, but when it comes down to it, and those ethic rules, if they decide who's they're constitutional or not, it's going to be the Supreme Court that decides that. So, it don't even make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the ethics are unethical. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's funny.
But Congress funds the Supreme Court. They pass all the funding. They actually do oversee the nominations and appointments. So why would they not have the authority to put an ethics code on the Supreme Court when they do everything else?
Yeah, the whole idea of the judicial, executive, and legislative branches of government are to balance each other out. There's supposed to be a balance of power, and instead, what we've done is lay everything at the feet of the Supreme Court and say, well, they decide, and whenever it's them deciding on their own fate, of course you're going to get some conflicts of interest.
Yeah, and if we had like one, like Trump, as bad as he is, if he was the only corrupt one, it wouldn't be that big a deal. You know what I mean? Like if Congress wasn't, but we have Congress, we have Congress that's just as corrupt or bound down to him that are, that are participating in this. And then we have a Supreme Court that's participating. It's like all three branches, it's a wonder that we're in as good a shape as we are right now.
That's why the Supreme Court taking up this issue of immunity to begin with is a slap in the face to America, because this is something that isn't supported in law in any way. There are not, there's no law.
I think the rule he doesn't have immunity. Do you?
No, I think they will too. But they threw him a bone by taking it up just to push it down the road.
Yeah. But I think they wanted to get this out, like make sure there was some. So there was no question.
I guess it has to be important to a lot of people to know if the guy they're voting for is in fact a convicted felon.
Because some of them don't care.
No, you're right. A lot of them don't care, but there's
president from jail.
A lot of your more moderate Republicans and your swing voters, though, are and this elections are won by the swing voters. Yeah. So to take it away from those people to know whether he actually legally can be held liable for these crimes is just, it's just a disservice to the American people. And it has no basis in constitutional law, which is their wheelhouse. And it's ridiculous.
And those judges, some of those justices have a lot of personal interest in, his you know what I'm saying, in how it turns out for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Trump is very much of the belief that I did this thing for you, you owe me forever. Just like he said with Taylor Swift, I signed the Musicians' Rights Act and stuff, and it's like he didn't have shit to do with that. But because he signed it, she owes him, he feels. So you think that people that he got to personally pick for the Supreme Court, he doesn't call these people daily and say, now remember, I picked you for the Supreme Court because I was going to need you one day.
I'm pretty sure most of them won't answer the phone for him if he called them. But they know what he thinks. You know what I mean? He wouldn't care a bit to say, somebody needs to do something to them. They need to be taken off the court. You know what I mean? Yeah. He doesn't care a bit to call for his supporters to violently attack anybody, a judge or whatever.
one of the first things to go whenever you have these extremists and dictators and stuff take office, one of the first things to go is the Supreme Court, because they don't want somebody else to be telling them what they can and can't do. So the Supreme Court, they if they end up having a helping hand of getting Trump back in office, they will probably reciprocate that in some way.
I don't know. I just can't believe that it's just this bad. It's just hard.
That it turned into.
But I keep looking back and I keep listening to Sheldon's, because I love Sheldon Whitehouse. I mean, I just love him. He is just so, like I said, he's a dog on a bone with this Supreme Court thing, and he says it's been this bad before.
Yeah,
he does. I mean, he talks about during the railroad, times when the railroads barons captured all the regulatory things, and they had the Supreme Court, and so there's been 2 or 3 times in our history that we have been in this position.
Yeah. There's this. We have a lot of. History that could possibly repeat itself if we're not careful with this thing. This election year is really going to matter a lot, and they say that every time, but it's started to matter every time. We have one group that wants. Well, we want.
I don't know what they want.
Yeah. They don't want to govern. They just want to be
in power.
They just want power. And
I mean, we got like Marjorie Taylor Greene, voting to oust the speaker again because he passed the budget to keep the government open.
I think that's going to blow up in her face, honestly.
I hope that something does. I mean, I can't understand. I mean, the people, her district must be some of the dumbest people in America right now. I mean, I would be. I can't. Can you imagine our founding fathers if they came into Congress right now and looked and see like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert, and they would be like, "Oh my God!" I mean,
posing for their Twitter feed.
Yeah, with her screaming like a banshee during the State of the Union. I mean, they would just be like, they didn't even really think women probably should even be governing, and there's who we got going. I mean, at least Lee is I mean, she's I don't always agree with her policies, but she was she acted like a respectable person that carried herself in a respectable manner, and not a
I call Marjorie Taylor Greene Klan mom.
Oh my God, she's crazy. I mean, she's just crazy. It just, all her conspiracies and stuff. I mean, I don't think that we are to have to deal with her because the people of her district are that dumb. Really, I think we are able to get her out anyway. I mean, maybe take their voting rights away from them for a while. I don't know if Issa was needing to leave and want to say bye or.
Yeah, he said he had to step away there for a second, and he came back.
Well, he's at work. Remember, he said he was at work.
So. I'll go ahead and make some channel announcements and stuff, and then if he shows back up, we can close out the show or whatever. But had a really great time with this today. You did a great job, Robin. You asked questions that were I think on people's minds, and it was a really good discussion, and Issa was very thorough with it. So good on both of you. I'm really happy with it. But
he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He is.
I think if we dove a little deeper into the the religious part of it, it's problematic, but I get what he's trying to do and all that, but we'll wait on him before we go there.
Yes.
So tomorrow we have Dave from Captive Desk will be here, and I've titled it Grilling Ham. We're going to talk about Ken Ham and some of what that group's been up to. And then next Sunday, we have Purple Rhymes with Orange, and Jenny Morgan will be here. And we're going to talk about some trans issues and things as it relates to being an atheist, the atheist community, and in general too. But I've kind of got a direction I want to go with that. So we've got those things coming up. We've got, we're booked all the way through with guests till May. Well, I just took May 19th a little bit ago.
No, that's for
May 19th. Well, we won't even get into who that is yet.
Yeah.
We'll wait till we get closer. But what else do we got going? Oh yeah, everybody that went and watched the new Deep Six show on Wavelength, that ended up being a really good show, and I'm glad that we were able to take part in helping them get started and stuff, and we'll continue to work together and things. But we've got some ideas in the future of being able to work together with them. I'll be on their show coming up here April 6th, I think.
I thought it was next week.
Next week sometime. Yeah.
I'm going to be on there with you. Did you get my message?
Or maybe month. Yeah. And that'll be awesome. It'll be me and Robin on there. That'll be a lot of fun. I'll have to look at the date again. I forget.
Issa, did you need to go? I seen that you put your sport coat on.
No, I'm here with you.
Oh, okay,
I thought maybe I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sorry. To actually flip it back, though, that's what we got going on coming up. As always, though, thanks to all the channel members and stuff that, help support the channel. And you guys are great. And we've got some new stuff coming for you guys, too. But let's go back now and pick back up with Issa. So what do you think the future of Israel and Gaza looks like, based on what, not what you want to happen, but where we think it may be going?
Well, I think we're going to have a solution. I think there's going to be there is going to be a ceasefire of some sort. There's several avenues of what could happen. It's possible that Israel might just take over Gaza. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but that's a possibility, that Israel will just say, you've gone too far, you're gone, I'm taking over. And that would make this whole movement look really, really bad for Israel if that's what occurs. I think there's actually a big movement in Israel. There's a protest in Israel against what's happening, because most people around the world think it's wrong. It's wrong for lives to be lost.
Well, yeah. And I think that we, in the past, we've seen what Israel did when they did have control over Gaza, and it's one of the reasons they were pressured to let the Palestinians govern themselves more, which, created the vacuum that allowed Hamas to come in to begin with. But, to say that Israel itself didn't have a play in that would be to dismiss big chunks of information.
Well, now, Jared Kushner said this week, he made a statement that he thought that Israel should just take over Gaza and kick all the, get rid of all people and build skyscrapers and a tourist thing. I mean, so, that's pretty much what may happen if Trump wins.
And then they can go in and bomb the shit out of that too.
If Trump wins the election, that may be what, that may be the future that they're facing right now. Gaza might be because
Yeah.
that's his son-in-law. So, you know what I mean? And he made a public statement that he thought that's what should be done.
I thought he fixed everything in the Middle East personally.
Oh, yeah. Except he didn't bring any of the people that were actually fighting in on that.
By fixing it, I mean he got billions of dollars for himself.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do. He's like Saudi. I guess, you know, probably Saudi investors are wanting to, you know what I mean, to build, but just pretty much turn it into like a tourist thing, you know.
Yeah,
it's a resort like place, and it's, you know, so that would be like all of the Palestine, you know, the Gaza Strip would be cleaned out.
I mean, don't we have to keep in mind here that this isn't just Hamas or you know, Palestinians. Well, it's not Palestinians in any way, you know, to begin with, but this isn't just Hamas. They're backed by some scary, powerful places that are
yes,
you know, pushing for this, and for them, they want it. You know, they're happy with it either way. You know, either we destroy everyone or they destroy us, and then we get to, you know, act like we were somehow treated unfairly. Which again, it's the Palestinian people and the children and the innocent ones that have no dog in this fight, so to speak, that are the real victims here. And hopefully we don't see that conclusion come about.
I agree with you 100%. I think we should care about Palestinians. And that's a part of the problem. I've been in spaces where people are like, let's kill all the Palestinians. And I'm like, it sounds like Nazi Germany to me.
Yeah. How is that ever an answer to anything?
And I mean, that's what scares me about this, is because, you know, here in America, that is a big, I mean, we don't care a lot. I mean, a large group of our population does not care how many brown people are killed. You know what I mean? It does not matter to them.
Oh, no.
I mean, because they see things as this way. You know what I mean? You know, if they were Christians, maybe they would care a little bit, but not even necessarily about that, because
there are Christians there. There are Christians.
Yeah, there are Christians. I know, but like the population as a whole, like, you know, but that still wouldn't. I mean, they don't. There's just a big population in America that doesn't care about anybody but themselves.
It doesn't matter. Like, even if you have a group of, let's say that every person in Gaza is a Muslim extremist, every one of them. Okay, let's pretend that's the case. Genocide still isn't the way you get to peace. That's still not a viable action even against that. And
the survivors are going to be even more radicalized.
Of course.
I mean, it makes sense that they would be more radicalized now, since they've been through this.
These people,
this has just made the wounds deeper.
These people have been forced, for the most part, to stay in this one piece of land, in this one area, surrounded completely by Israel. And they face there's a lot of things they face.
They got Egypt on it one side, but but Egypt doesn't allow them. You know, doesn't allow us to.
Yeah, right. The border is still controlled by Israel, though.
But no fly. They're not allowed to fly. And in our new budget, United States budget that passed their day, I think they cut all the humanitarian aid to Gaza. I mean, I think they cut it out. So that
they may have in the new bill, but they just sent them 30 million.
Yeah,
or
Biden sent them a bunch of that. But then that new bill passed the other day. I'm pretty sure that they cut all the funding to humanitarian aid to them.
Biden had previously said that if Netanyahu wanted to go into Rafah, that he had best, handle the humanitarian side of it better first, or it was going to be a red line for him. And so hopefully that's we quit funding acts of genocide.
Yeah, but we cut fund. We didn't cut funding to Israel. We cut funding to the humanitarian aid to Palestine.
Oh, that's what you're saying. I see. Yeah, that sounds right. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So we're going to stop sending humanitarian aid over there, according
Right,
to
because
that. I mean, if that budget it was in that budget. I don't know that it went through that way, but I think it did. I mean,
the United States has stuck its foot in its big old mouth on this one, and you know, we've gotten involved in something this time that there is no. I mean, there's never really a winner in war anyway, but in this, it's going to be years and years of heartache and problems, and there's going to be other issues that arise from this down the road, and you know, we're going to have to at some time admit that, you know, maybe we handled this poorly, and we should have been there more for the people instead of the governments. And but you know, that's still to be seen. We'll see what happens there, but I just I think it's awful that, again, all these people who have no part of this fight whatsoever are the ones dying. Those are the people dying every day, whether regardless of what they believe. They're people, you know. And
yeah, Issa, I'm so sorry that I hate it for you. I know it has to be.
To have family on both sides, yeah, that's got to make for fun discussions. But it gives you perspective, right? I mean, you get that perspective of what your Jewish family thinks about it, and then what the Muslim community does as well. Oh,
He
had to
be.
do. Yeah, he must have got busy there.
Let me bring up one more thing. The attack on Russia in Moscow, the music hall. ISIS is claiming that it was part of it. Putin is trying to say it was Ukraine. Now, you know, I felt like it came the same day as the United States had requested the UN to demand a ceasefire. Actually, at the UN, they put forth the thing, and China and Russia blocked it.
Yeah, of course.
Ceasefire. So it just so happened that the attack came after that Russia blocked the ceasefire. Do you think that had anything to do with that?
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure that's.
I mean, ISIS is not Ukrainian. I mean, is there large groups of ISIS in Ukraine?
No, but it sure does serve the other partner. You said Russia and China blocked it. It sure does serve the other partner, Iran, though, to do that, because what they do there is Putin. Putin can then say, "You see, they're pushing for a ceasefire. Meanwhile, they're attacking us in these places." And then he can use that and say, "No, it was Ukraine that did that." And you know, it works for his narrative, actually, whether anybody buys it or not. You know, I don't think.
Well, see, he didn't say ISIS. He's never, like, the Russian media is not saying ISIS. ISIS is claiming responsibility.
Right. Well, ISIS, they're not gonna be outdone either. They want recognition for what they did.
Yeah. They're like, somebody's trying to steal what we did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's trying to blame somebody else for what we did. But I mean, it was terrible.
That's one point I imagine they won't play politics with is they want recognition for that.
And the United States had warned Russia. And it's like it's citizens that were over there, but it did because there's it says they warned, they shared with them that even that there was probably going to be a large attack on Moscow, within Moscow, and it would be, and they even knew something about music concerts.
Yeah,
and so pretty sure that if they know that much, they know who the people that were attacking were going to be. You know what I mean? Yeah. If they had all that information, they knew where the source of this attack was going to come from. And so, that's why I think that it was probably ISIS, because that's what the United States intelligence is saying.
Well, let's. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. It's never as it seems, is it? But let's wrap this thing up. What do you say?
Right.
So we can get Issa back to doing what he needs to do. And
thank you, Issa.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us, by the way. And you were a great guest, and I enjoyed the conversation, and I think a lot of other people did too. We've had a lot of the same audience here since the very beginning of the show, which is impressive. But you want to tell everybody anything you got going on or coming up, or anything that you want everybody to know before we get out of here?
So Robin knows I am the co-host of Matters Now. We're going to be reading Arabian Nights. So we're going to look at all. I'm going to be the primary lead for this one coming Wednesday. So we're going to be reading some really cool stuff about the Arabian Nights on Matters Now with Max. Yeah, I'm always streaming on Matters Now. I'll probably be looking at the biblical verses with Flat Earth versus Globe with Dr. J. Dr. J is a really cool cat.
Yeah.
Good buddies. Best buddies. So you'll be seeing me on Matters Now, so make sure to stream in. I'll definitely catch you all here at the Kentucky Atheist, and I think this is really kind of cool. I like this platform. I definitely like the conversation, and the last thing I want to say is that we need to care about all human beings and support all of these lives. I think that's the most important thing. Support the Palestinians, support the Israelis. These people haven't done anything wrong. They're innocent people. They deserve love and care and humanity, and they deserve to have all the rights. So,
yeah,
agreed.
I don't think there's anything better we can say than that, right? Yeah, Robin, you got anything else you want to talk about before we go?
Like me and you are going to be on, which I kind of slid myself in there and got myself invited. But you know what I mean? So we're going to be on our one and Hooligan's new channel next week. I think it's Saturday. I think it is.
Yeah.
And other than that, go subscribe to my channel. I don't have much content up there, but I would like to have some subscribers. But like I post just stuff that I've been on like this and stuff like that. But
I will get links to all that's mentioned in the description as soon as the video ends. And
it's free, so you know.
Yeah. But you'll be able to find everybody linked in the description. I think actually I'd already linked Robin, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if Issa did something on his own outside of like had a channel where it was just different subjects you wanted to cover or what. So I didn't put a link for Matters Now because I wasn't sure.
That's where I stream mostly. I don't because I'm in school. I'm doing social work. I'm doing allied health. I'm mostly doing school. So I when I can stream. Like that's the easiest thing. I'm not managing a channel right now.
Yeah.
I do have my own channel with things that I stream. I can post this video too if you like.
Yeah, sure.
I will do that.
We do panels all the time on Sundays at about the same time. So if you're ever free, I know Sunday probably isn't
mostly also every Sunday, so you can always always live to come. If I'm invited, I will come.
You're welcome to come join in. We open things up a lot. You can usually tell depending on the topic of whether we're gonna be able to open things up or whether it's going to be a focused discussion like this one. You can usually tell, but we try to open things up and let as many people come on and state their position.
We have a trivia night on what night is trivia night?
We do trivia Wednesdays at 9, which is not religious based at all. It's completely we don't talk about religion really at all. We just do trivia.
You don't do trivia on the moon landing? Is the moon landing real? I'm actually quite good at trivia. My fields, my specialties are I know movies. I'm very good at film, video games. Like I'm pretty good at books. So those are my things. So
we started giving away gift cards every week now too.
They give away a gift card every week or something, or building up like a lottery. I don't know which one they decided to do, but
well, it's kind of both. So we have a drawing every week for a $25 gift card, and the way that we've done it is we pick a number range and let everybody pick a number that participates, and they can pick a number, and then if nobody hits that number, we carry it on to the next week. But now we're not doing like with 10 people, 1 to 100. You know, we try to limit it. We try to let somebody win it, but if they don't, we carry it on in the next week. It's $50. So it's I think it was a neat idea to keep things going and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that come. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good crowd that plays now.
Yeah.
Azzo's in charge of that. So
Yeah, Azzo hosts that number, and it does really well. I mean, it's so I'm apt to let it continue. The
you hear
but
that, Azzo?
yeah, Azzo, we didn't even get to see him today. I should have dropped a link just for him. He probably feels completely left out. Hell, he probably left already. Nope, there he is. Need a better host for trivia. Just saying. Yeah.
So, what topics do you have for trivia? What kind of things do you cover?
Well,
Everything.
we do general knowledge stuff. Sometimes, you know, it just depends really. That it's not usually a focused subject or anything. It's general knowledge, and then we may like I'm working on a Jeopardy board top deal where it's got different categories that are, I guess, put in Kentucky language. And but it's just general knowledge stuff. We hit a little bit of everything.
Like, do you know what Pythagorean's theorem is, or you know,
A squared plus B squared equals C squared?
Yeah, no, but
That wasn't a question.
Would it be A squared plus B squared equals C squared, or would it be what is it? S to the fourth, you know, or W plus D, you know, like would you have like L times W times H? Would you have like those as your kind of, you know, questions, and you have to guess which one is right, or how does it go?
I mean,
one of my favorite questions that I answered first was like, who was the catcher for the Cincinnati Reds back in 1942? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was Johnny Bench, number 5, Johnny Bench. I wrote like 3 papers on him in high school or grade school, so but stuff like that.
So we haven't done a lot with showing things on screen yet because, like I said, I just kind of set up the trivia board and things, and so now we have it to where we can display the questions and do more things kind of like that. But for the most part, it's
Pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture stuff, not hard stuff. Not too hard anyway. And the whole gift card thing's all decided by participation. There's no winners. There's no score. It's just
cool.
Just have fun, bullshit.
Not having fun. Oh, yeah. I like that. Well, I'll come join you on a trivia night. Just let me know, both of y'all. I'll definitely come in. I think it's fun.
Carrie Ann's pretty hard.
Yeah,
she's pretty tough.
Carrie Ann and Pinworm take this stuff seriously.
Yeah, Carrie Ann's tough. Carrie Ann is right on with the answer. She types fast too. So we need.
Do you ever play Kahoot? Do you ever do Kahoot?
That's part of the biggest thing is getting the answer typed in. You know, I mean, like when you're doing it, because you know you may know the answer, I like misspell it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though. We do. Like I said, right now, it's just been pretty much just finding some trivia questions and asking them. And Azzo has had Michael come on and kind of help him manage the questions and stuff to make sure he's not, you know, getting anything wrong, kind of the fact checker of the thing. But we're, as we progress more into a more streamlined way of doing it, all of that stuff will be more available. And we're talking about doing different kinds of trivia stuff, like not just random questions, but like stuff that's about a particular subject for whatever reason, or you know. So there's a lot of different things we're talking about doing with it. But for now, it's mostly just just random trivia questions. Could be anything. But,
I love that. That sounds great.
Well, I hope if you get to come, you like it, and it's we do that every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for anybody else that's interested, and then lots of great stuff coming up, and we'll be on at 6 tomorrow. So catch us for that show with Dave from Captive Desk. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna pretty much just shit talk Ken Ham for about an hour. And but I guess with that, let's get out of here, right, guys?
You're gonna have from Australia. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.